Oh, true believers, evildoers beware. Kay Millie in the morning on this wet day here in the Treasure Valley. We've got a lot going on this morning. I guess we could call this Little Big Thursday. We've got some tickets to the Al Stewart show. That's right, Al Stewart is coming to the Knitting Factory. So we'll do it very easy this morning. You're going to get a friend or a family four-pack. And yes, I've actually, Ray Amaya, you always check my work here, and I thank you for that. I've made sure that the tickets are all together. So as opposed to the last time I gave away tickets that weren't all together. So we've got a friend or a family four-pack that will be yours to Big Al coming to the Knitting Factory, and that is for this Sunday. All you have to do is be caller 5 at 580-5436. 580-KIDO when I say call in to win the tickets to see Al Stewart. That is number one on the agenda. Number two, the Kay Millie cash code word of the day is couch. That's couch. So there we go. The Kay Millie cash brought to you by our friends at EGT Solar, the Treasure Valley's solar authority. Couch is the word today. Our next cash code Kay Millie word is today at 8:05 a.m. and then at 3:05 this afternoon with Sean Hannity. So keep it here for your chance to win up to $5,000, brought to you by EGT Solar, the solar choice here in the Treasure Valley. A lot going on here today. Joining us now is the president of the Council for Muslims Facing Tomorrow, also someone who has appeared in numerous films, Honor Diaries and By the Numbers, featured on HBO. Raheel Raza joins us now here in Idaho from Toronto, Canada. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Tell us the state of security in America today, ma'am.
Well, I guess it's not that great because you just had this recent vehicular attack in New York. And, of course, there have been a numerous number of terrorist attacks just this year. So I think that that's an issue that needs to be discussed in more detail and looked at. And I can't fathom why this is not happening, because I'm sure your security agencies, considered to be the best in the world, should be able to track that there is a war directed at the United States, an ideological war, and it is something that has been going on for so long. So there should be some more stringent measures put into place.
Why do you think we pass on that, or do you think we're too soft on making sure that ISIS doesn't get us here in America?
Well, there's a variety of reasons. One of them is, of course, you have now a precedent of the past 8 years where you were not even allowed to name the problem. And as any doctor will tell you, that if there's a virus, you first have to acknowledge it. You have to identify it, isolate it, and then you have to find the cure. Now, the virus is this Islamist ideology, this violent Islamist. And I use the term Islamist because it's not Islam as a faith. I'm a practicing Muslim, but it is Islamism, which is a political ideology. And this is an ideology that is of Islamist supremacy. And so there is political correctness, there is the regressive left, there are people who don't want to be called racist. So the issue, the problem and the virus has really not been addressed and acknowledged. It's only now that the current president is at least able to say that we have a problem with radical Islamist ideology and we need to do something about it. But the priorities keep changing. World events are such that there is a priority of finances and oil and everything else. My suggestion is that this should be made into a priority because it affects our future. It affects the safety and security of the country and affects future generations. And if we don't take care of this problem now, we'll end up like Europe, which is going down a deep, dark hole.
Well, Raheel, let's talk a little bit about the idea of being radicalized on the Internet. People say we can't stop it. Do you believe that's true?
Well, everything can be monitored, and it's not only through the internet that the people are radicalized. That's only a small part of it. And, you'll have anchors and experts saying that there are no lone wolves. There's no such thing as a lone wolf. Somebody physically radicalizes these young people or the converts to go out and kill people. What we have to do is track and find out where this messaging is coming from. Because as a human being, you'll understand that you have to be taught to hate another person so that you can harm them. Otherwise, ordinary people who don't hate will not do that. And so we have to find out where the messaging of hate is coming from. The internet, as I said, is a part of it, but it is not the entire message. There are people who don't have access to the internet who get radicalized because they have been brainwashed into believing that they are supreme, that their violence is justified, that they need to kill people who are not like them. And it impacts me as well because the attacks have been, there have been more attacks on Muslims who don't agree with the status quo than there have been non-Muslims. So this is a really serious issue, and people need to think about it seriously. And of course, the government and law enforcement and the security agencies have to be cautious. And this is why my association with the Clarion Project is really important, because the Clarion Project exposes radicalization all over the world and gives voice to progressive reformist Muslims.
Raheel Raza with us here, Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Now, I'm glad that you talked about the difference between a practicer of Islam and the Islamists, because we have many people here in the Treasure Valley that believe the only answer to stopping the radicals is to get rid of all the Muslims. And for me, we all have to work together. That's America. That's the way the country was founded, on religious freedom. So for those of us that don't understand your faith and the people that are good Muslims that want to be a part of America, how do we rectify that?
Well, the thing is that we need to work with the Muslims. You have to remember that we are the frontline warriors in this battle for the soul of Islam, because the internal battle to reform Islam, to take back the faith, is raging right now throughout the Muslim world. And, it borders on ignorance for people to say that all Muslims are terrorists, because obviously they are not. There are millions of Muslims living in the United States who are good citizens, who are caring people, who are just like you and me. But the litmus test is to find out, are they loyal to the country they live in? Do they believe in separation of mosque and state? Do they believe in gender equality? And these are all questions that need to be asked. Now, we've got a problem because of political correctness. People are not allowed to ask these questions. So the conversation that you and I are having should be happening at a global scale, at a national scale, so that people can understand that there are Muslims who are fighting the terrorism, because, when we speak out, we can't be slapped with a label of being a racist or a bigot. Although people do try to shut us up as well, especially me, because I happen to be a Muslim woman. But the fact is that it shouldn't stop us. And we have to work together. That was the key that you said. The solution lies in everybody, government, civil society, Muslims, non-Muslims, men, women, everyone working together to defeat this virus. Just like the world came together when there was communism and fascism and Marxism, we need to come together against Islamism, which is the political ideology, without targeting those Muslims who are not following this ideology.
Raheel, if you were Director of National Security, what would you do?
Well, the first thing I'd do is secure my borders and try to clean up the problem on the ground before, going on to other things. I would create roundtables and sit together with people from many different facets of life, and also bring on board reformist Muslims and ask them, how can we solve this problem together? And so that has not happened yet, and I'm waiting for it to happen. And in July, I was invited to the U.S. Congress, and I did give testimony on homegrown terrorism, and I made 4 recommendations, and one of them was exactly this, that, in order to target the terrorism, we need to come together. We need to have roundtables that we can have these discussions, and I'm hoping it will happen.
Well, again, these discussions are easier said than done in the hyped-up world we live in, ma'am.
Well, of course. That's the problem. We get so easily deflected onto other issues. But this is a global crisis. I want to remind you and your listeners that it's a global jihadist insurgency. The extremists have declared war on the West and its values. And we have to, and it's a war of ideas. It's not a physical war. This is the difference. And this is why it's so difficult. So we have to create better ideas, an alternate narrative. That is what I am doing with the Muslim Reform Movement. And we have a movement now called the Muslim Reform Movement. You can go to the website. And we want to create a different narrative. We want to bring Muslims into the 21st century so that we can all learn to live together in compassion and tolerance and respect for each other. We don't have to think alike. That's a fallacy, but we need to respect each other because we all have religious freedom. This is the beauty of living in democracy where we have these freedoms. We need to respect those who follow any faith and those who follow no faith. And, anyone who follows a different path. Violence and killing is never a solution, so we need to be cognizant of that.
Raheel, we appreciate you and thank you for coming on this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, Raheel.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Raheel Raza joining us here. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO. Kevin Miller, phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Remember, coming up, your chance to win tickets to see Hal Stewart this Sunday at the Knitting Factory. When you hear me give you the cue to call, simply be the correct caller. Caller 5 at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. That's coming up within 4 minutes. Keep it here for your chance to win. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Oh, boy, the music of Al Stewart. You're right about that. He's coming to the Knitting Factory. Caller 5 now wins the Friends and Family 4-pack to see Big Al at the Knitting Factory this Sunday, November 12th. We're very excited to be a part of the Al Stewart Comes to the Treasure Valley show, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Who cannot forget Time Passages? Kind of like this program. Pete, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, Pete.
Kevin, good morning. Discussing the issue of the mass shootings and the terrorist attacks, I think it's time for people in America, and certainly in Idaho, to stop thinking, what can the government do to stop this? What can the government do to protect us? The government can't do anything to protect you. The government comes around after it happens and tries to clean up. The government does what it can to stop some of these plots, but you're the first responder. It is up to you to protect yourself. In Idaho, if you're 21 years old and you are not prohibited from owning a firearm, you no longer need a permit to carry a concealed weapon. And I think that the adults in this state need to wake up and start carrying a concealed weapon, know how to use it, take lessons, know how to use it safely, and simply be prepared to be your first responder to protect yourself. And if you're going to some place that says gun-free zone, don't go there. I will not go. The only place like that I go anymore is the post office. I got to leave my gun outside and depend on the post office to protect me, which makes me feel real warm and fuzzy. And the courthouse, where they actually search you when you come in, they have armed guards, so that's at least a slightly safer situation. But I won't go to a concert. I won't go to a store. I won't go to any place that says gun-free zone. I am going to take personal responsibility for protecting myself. And I think the people in this country need to wake up. It's your job. It's not the government's job.
Is that progress, or are we going back a little?
Well, we may be going back to where it was when this country was founded in the 1800s, and I'm sorry about that. I know I grew up in a time in the 1950s when we were all pretty safe, and I think it's because we all shared the same moral values. We were not being trashed on TV by TV and Hollywood shows that glorified evil.
Right.
I regret that is gone, but here we are. This is where we are today. And like I said, I think personally It is time for adults in this country to wake up to the fact that the government cannot protect you. I'm sorry.
Pete, we appreciate the call, and thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right. Our great friend Pete will stay with that topic at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. It's what Greg Pruitt said, what Pete said, and what I'm saying right now is, how safe do you feel when you're at a movie theater? And the other night I'm at church, Father Len, we're all praying the Hail Marys about the folks who were dead and shot dead in Texas. And you think to yourself, how to avoid that? Packing a weapon. I think another reason how you avoid it is you don't vilify people that carry guns. I think you elevate them. I think you thank them for all that they're doing to keep themselves safe. And really, have we regressed as a society when we feel the need to carry a weapon wherever we go? As Greg Pruitt said, as Pete said, do you believe that your own self-defense is your personal responsibility? So instead of calling the police, it's time to call Smith and Wesson. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. By the way, congratulations to Christine in Caldwell for winning the Al Stewart tickets. We've got some friends and family 4-packs to give away next half hour. We appreciate that. Also, tickets to the Boise Philharmonic. Believe it or not, folks, it's the Music of America. No, Americas. More details next. KIDO Talk Radio time is 6:20. Let's go back to the phones, and we go to Sky King. It's been a while on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, sir.
Good morning, Kevin, and appreciate the opportunity to interject some thoughts from the high places. Hey, in regards to Pete's call, I can identify with Pete because I grew up in the era of the early 50s, and as kids, going to the Saturday matinees in those days was a common thing that we would do. Watch the B movies, the Roy Rogers, Gene Autry movies, etc. And one of the phenomena that would happen in the movie was that the bad guys would be perpetrating their fraud or whatever they were doing, and as the movie developed, the posse would finally come to eradicate the bad guys, and the kids would actually applaud and cheer the good guys overcoming the bad guys. You had this teaching in school. You had prayer in school in those days. You had the teaching of love country and love the state. I was taught to love everything about our state, our city, our country, and I think the turning point, Kevin, I think the turning point was 1962 when the Supreme Court ruled that we could no longer have prayer in schools. And from that point, in fact, a very intelligent man, David McKay, told the people, this will be the beginning of the decline of this nation because we are turning against our God. And I've seen it. I have seen over each decade get worse and worse to the point of where we are now. And I can tell you that it is a direct result, at least in my humble opinion, it is a direct result because we have not emphasized that in our youth, in our schools. We've forgotten civics. We don't teach that anymore. It is all just a free-for-all. And so what do you expect when there's no moral equivalence of what's been taught in the past? It's all forgotten. That's my comment.
Well, you got a solution?
Well, yes, I do. And it would take a lot of courage because people would have to face, for example, teachers and principals and leaders in the school system should defy the Supreme Court. That would be a bold move. They would probably be worried about losing their job, and I can understand that. I can sympathize with that. But if no one stands up to this judiciary, which is out of control, we don't have an opportunity to correct the problem. It's going to get worse and worse.
Sky King, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next, could we have a protest during the historic Veterans Day ceremony at Kuna High School? Sad that we're even talking about it, but we've got to arm you with the information, and we'll get your thoughts next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good.
There we have it, the magic of Big Al Stewart. Kevin Miller in the morning here. Caller 6 will win a Friends and Family 4-pack to Al Stewart at the Knitting Factory. He'll be there Sunday, so if you're interested in going, keep it here for your chance to win. We'll give you the cue to call coming up between now and 6:55. Rolling right along, some big issues going on at Kuna High School. With the latest, here's our news partner, Channel 7.
An important day for us.
The Veterans Day Assembly at Kuna High School is a tradition. This is a video from last year.
It's the event where hundreds of veterans come in. The entire school student body is. A helicopter lands. It's a big deal.
David Reinhardt is a spokesperson for the district. He says, unfortunately, worries recently surfaced about the assembly.
There was a rumor that there would be students that would take a knee during the national anthem.
Reinhardt says that rumor, started by a student who has since apologized, sparked a lot of reaction from students and parents.
Because people feel strongly about their country, and we understand that.
Reinhardt says the district has been proactive, talking with students about free speech.
When it's proper to assemble and when it's proper to express yourself and exercise free speech, but not on Veterans Day.
He says for students who still have a problem with the assembly, they will be supervised elsewhere in the building.
We've worked hard to work with students on an individual basis to make sure that it's a dignified ceremony for all veterans.
Reinhardt says Kuna High School has one of the highest military enlistment rates for graduates in the Treasure Valley, adding another layer of importance to the assembly. Some of these students will also become veterans.
Kuna's got great kids at the school.
Lieutenant Colonel Michael Timmerman teaches here. He's in charge of the state's only Air Force Junior ROTC program. His 122 students have been preparing for the assembly.
That's an exciting time for us. We get to show off.
It's also humbling for them. Colonel Timmerman says it should be for all of us as we remember the many sacrifices our military men and women have made.
If we didn't have those people stepping to the plate and willing to fight for the freedoms that we have, we wouldn't have the freedoms to do what we do. And some of those veterans aren't going to be sitting out there on Friday because they didn't come back. And so to recognize that sacrifice is important. I think it's important.
The community is invited to come out for the Veterans Day Assembly, which is on Friday at 10 a.m. inside of the Cave, which is the school's gym.
There we have it. So there's a rumor they're going to do a national anthem protest at Kuna High School. And apparently it was started by one person who has apologized for it. I have to say that if anybody is seriously considering it, that would be about the dumbest move that you could ever make in Kuna or in any part of Idaho. We're not San Francisco. We're not Seattle, thank goodness. And that would be a blatantly dumb move. And you talk about free speech. Sure, you have the free speech to act like a nitwit, to be disrespectful. Do you really want to do it? Tom Munns, TomMunns.com, Munns Tom Twitter with Kevin Miller. Hello, Tom. Hello, Tom.
Good morning. I've missed you. It's been I think it's been almost a week, but anyway, I wanted to call and say, there could only be one thing necessarily worse than that, and that's to become the nation that exemplifies the epitome of irony. And I use that statement a lot because I think it kind of fits. As a matter of fact, I think it fits so much we should change our national anthem to something like the epitome of irony, and I think I'm going to have to talk to Brian Carter about putting that to music. But, what Sky King was talking about earlier is completely related. When you teach children, when you teach the younger generation about the freedoms that they think they have, and it's without understanding our form of government, this is what you get. You get people that are not being taught that they're free, sovereign people of the most blessed nation in the world. You teach them that they're subservient to big government and they do what they're told. And then you teach them about all of the wrong things. There's this issue with CUNA is a two-pronged issue. One of them, I would never consider disrespecting veterans on Veterans Day. Number two, it's not about free speech. This is about communism or Marxism, the revolutionaries being implemented through what they've been learning through the school system and what they've been learning through the media. These kids are just, they can't think for themselves anymore. They're just repeating the rhetoric that they hear from the news. You know, the idea that guy said that if it wasn't for the military, we wouldn't be free, you know, that's not necessarily true to some degree. I mean, if they're out in Syria and they're involved in UN missions, I don't support that. But I'm certainly not going to disrespect my veterans enough to be able to tell them so while they're being honored for the belief in what they're doing. What they're doing and what the belief in what they're doing is a different thing. And so we're dealing with little children, little revolutionaries, little ignorant revolutionaries that are being taught that we're subservience in a democracy rather than sovereign, fearfully made, God-created creatures that are masters over their government. And you have something else where we're teaching people that the military is something that should be honored for being involved in wars that we shouldn't be involved in. You want to support your military? Keep them home. Keep them with all their body parts intact and keep them together with their families. When they come home and they've got PTSD and their families are being destroyed and the suicide rate is through the roof, and then they become law enforcement officers with PTSD, it only compounds the problem. So this thing is wrong there's a whole bunch wrong with this. And that's why I say that we're the epitome of irony, because we'll sit there and say we love our kids, but we'll brainwash them. We'll say that we love our kids, but we'll put them in $1 trillion in debt. We say we love our children, but we'll tolerate the immoral nature of the things that are taught at school. We say we love our children, but we turn them into communists, which will make our nation no better than any other nation in the world, which is the fulfillment of the prophecy that Obama had stated when he first got into office.
All right. Frisky Tom in rare form here today. So do you believe that this is going to happen? Do you believe that somebody? Do you believe that somebody in Kuna, Idaho, during this holy ceremony, would all of a sudden do something stupid like this? I mean,
absolutely.
Here's the thing that I don't get. That it's a news story, but apparently it's serious enough that the district is doing this. And if it's a joke, you got to be a moron to joke about these things. Very insensitive.
Well,
very insensitive. It makes CUNA look bad. It really does.
If the district is going to teach the kinds of things that the kids are expressing, then the district should be shamed. But the problem is that the district is so ignorant, as most of them are across the country, that we don't even realize that we're creating our own problem.
Now, Tom, why do you just throw everybody in? Is that your hold on? Let me say this. Is that your opinion when you're talking about all public school education? It's all bad.
The system itself, yes.
No, all public schools.
Absolutely. The system itself, for sure.
All right.
Because it's already been hijacked by the Fed.
Well, I think then, Tom, you and I are going to agree to disagree. I think there's a lot of good things going on in the schools.
I didn't say that there was.
Well, no, you said they were all. You said they were all bad.
Systemic problem.
Well, no, you said they were all bad, and they were all teaching bad things. Remember, I asked you. I asked you, does this mean all public schools are bad? You said yes.
Yes, but you're not staying consistent in your argument. You're saying that are all public schools bad? I'm saying when they relate to the things that we're talking about.
And the statement you said before that is that they do. You lumped all of them in together.
I did, because it's a systemic problem.
But you see, I think there are great things going on in schools.
I think we're arguing on two different levels.
I started out talking about a kid or kids taking a kneel during the national anthem in CUNA, and you indicted the entire public school education about brainwashing kids all across America and that the military doesn't protect us. Well, those are your statements, not mine.
Well, we need to suffer the consequences of our actions, Kevin, and maybe my statements will all suffer the consequences for mine. But
no, I'm
not
condemning you. I'm just saying you made your statement. I'm saying I disagree with it. That's the First Amendment, right?
Well, yeah, but let me clarify the fact that the school. I didn't say that the school wasn't doing good things. I said they're doing bad things. Dictators are not all bad. You know, Hitler or Mao Zedong.
Right. Tom, we're going to let it go when you say that Hitler and Mao Zedong and dictators are not all bad. Now, remember, Terry and Hank, you tell me if I heard Tom wrong at 580-5436. You guys be the judge, because that's how I heard it. And again, everybody's opinion's welcome, whether you agree with it or not. Unlike the loony left, we love diversity in our views. Back to this issue at Kuna High School. First Amendment issue, I think, again, it would be entirely disruptive, disrespectful, and it would have a bad impact. And quite frankly, kids do dumb things. We always say young and stupid. However, there are some things that are sacred, and taking a knee when you're honoring people that fought for that flag, You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. There we have it. Our conversation with Tom Munns earlier at KIDO Talk Radio. Now, we're going to have to blow through the calls rather quickly because we need to give away the Al Stewart tickets. And right now, our phone lines are just blowing up. No, I haven't given you the cue to call yet for Al Stewart. By the way, a young person called in, wanted to know how they can log on to the K-Millie Cash Code. It's the trending bar on KIDO Talk Radio. It says K-Millie's Cash Code right under the big headline there. Let's take your phone calls here, and let's go to Terry, formerly of State College, Pennsylvania, on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kevin. You know, Tom was just being frisky.
Frisky Tom.
We know what Tom meant, and other people know what Tom meant. Those, however, that don't know Tom don't understand his passion. Do we teach and practice communist principles in our schools? To a degree, not in totality, and that's what Tom was referencing. Everything Tom said he wasn't referencing in totality, but in partial. And these are principles and these standards that have no place in our public school. We all know this, and I give Tom a vote. I vote one for Tom. Yay, Tom.
Well, wait a minute. Tom said that all the schools are teaching us communism and all that.
Tom meant.
No, wait a minute. Now, you're the Tom Munns whisperer. You know what he means?
Yeah, I can decipher Tom when he's feeling passionate.
Oh, my goodness gracious. You need to call in when he's here. That way, I'll have him make a statement, then I'll have you translate. How about that? The next time he calls in, you call in right after.
Tom's translator. I like that. That's cool. Yeah, that would work.
That's right. The Tommy translator.
The Tommy translator. It sounds like a toy. Kevin, you know, there's always a few morons in the bunch, a few that have just total lack of respect. And oftentimes if we go into their family life, we see why. You know, the children are in charge, or they're left to totally run on their own. The parents are nowhere to be found. So, could this happen in Kuna? Yes. And I think a great solution would be if our great veterans all stood up and helped those that were having trouble standing up, gracefully marched off the stage and saluted the flag on the way out. And let the parents deal with that, the embarrassment that would come from that.
Right. Terry, I have to run.
That's right. You have a great day.
All right. Thank you. Ray and I guess we'll just have to do this. We have, very limited phone lines open thanks to the popularity of you and listening. So the Al Stewart tickets, the family 4-pack, what do we say, caller 5 or caller 6, something like that? Caller 5 at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You'll win to see Big Al at the Knitting Factory. Very exciting. Speaking of very exciting, let's go back to the phones, and we go to Hank in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Hank.
I'll make it real quick. The Bill of Rights, actually the one that has the longest origins in Anglo-American history, is the right to bear arms. It goes back to Henry II on the seas of Northampton when he specifically allowed the subjects to have arms. Henry III in 1236, 50 years later, required it that all subjects of the king had to carry arms. The English Bill of Rights Rights in 1689 after King James II tried to disarm the Protestants, proclaimed the right of all English citizens to bear arms. And your Delaware charters of your brilliant said, like Delaware in 1701, required, also made the statement for the right to bear arms. So it has the longest origins of all the rights specifically illuminated in the Bill of Rights. And it's an individual right, not a group right. And our Supreme Court, in one decision in Miller versus the United States versus Miller in 1939, tried to proclaim it as people only that would belong to the National Guard or whatnot. And some of your liberals in the court, like John Stevens later on, tried to maintain that position. But it's actually an individual right, not a group right.
Hank, we appreciate that. God bless.
Thank you.
All
Bye.
right, bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning here. Let's continue on, and we'll go to Jim in Boise with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Jim.
Morning, Kevin. I'd like to make a comment on something that Tom Munn said.
Frisky Tom.
I would advise to think critically and not be politically correct. Well, Hitler did do some good things for the Germans after they were destroyed World War I. If he hadn't have done some good things for the Germans, he wouldn't have gotten into power.
Well, one thing that, Jim, we have to remember is that at KIDO Talk Radio is that Hitler was elected legally.
He was.
Yeah.
He was. And they elected him because he helped the country until he went bad. Maybe he was always bad, but I mean, he had to do some good things to get into power.
Or the perception that he did good things.
Well, I mean,
So let's go back to what Tom. Let's go back
building
to
the highway system.
you're right. Let's go back to what Tom Munn said,
helping
though.
the economy.
He was basically saying the schools are teaching everybody to be communists.
Well, I go back to when I was in school in the 50s and 60s. Now, things have changed since then, but I am a public school supporter.
And I'm with you, Jim. I got to run. Good morning, Dave.